Most preppers meticulously stack away months of food, secure water filtration systems, prepare backup power, and acquire every defensive tool they might conceive of needing. Yet, very few possess a deliberate plan for the 15 comfort items that are crucial to preventing their household's mental health from collapsing when normal life ceases, not just for 3 days, but for 3 weeks. This strategy is essentially psychological first aid for your stockpile, and it addresses a critical oversight in preparedness. Both the American Red Cross and SAMHSA consistently document that behavioral health problems are among the most frequent adverse effects following a disaster. Nearly everyone in a crisis-affected community experiences some form of emotional impact. For most, these reactions are temporary, but only if the conditions for basic psychological stability are firmly established. This means providing more than just calories and clean water. It requires weaving small, deliberate acts of normalcy into your stockpile from day one. These 15 items are not luxury add-ons. They are field-tested tools designed to keep your household functional and cohesive when extended stress begins to pull people apart. Crucially, several of these items belong in your bug-out bag, not exclusively in your home stockpile. Physical survival often monopolizes attention within preparedness circles, leaving the psychology of a prolonged crisis largely ignored. This oversight represents a critical failure point, and the evidence supporting its importance is consistent. FEMA's Crisis Counseling Assistance and Training Program, administered in partnership with SAMHSA, was created specifically to address the behavioral health fallout from disasters because physical survival without mental stability yields outcomes nobody wants. Stress, anxiety, helplessness, and cognitive deterioration are well documented in communities where basic physical needs are met, but psychological needs are neglected. Preparedness experts studying slow-burn scenarios, extended grid-down situations, economic collapse, and prolonged displacement consistently report that mental stability begins to degrade within 2 to 3 weeks if no comfort anchors are present. Research from SAMHSA's Disaster Behavioral Health Information Series documents that psychological first aid interventions become critical when normal support systems fail. Routines collapse, sleep suffers, decision quality drops, and people within a group stop cooperating effectively. Preventing this downward spiral is not complicated, it simply requires intentional planning. Should you find yourself overwhelmed during a crisis, remember that SAMHSA's Disaster Distress Helpline provides confidential support 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The first item on our list is coffee and tea. A sealed container of instant coffee boasts a virtually indefinite shelf life, a fact that makes it one of the highest value, lowest cost morale items available. Accounts from veterans in extended field operations are nearly unanimous on this point. A cup of hot coffee in the morning isn't just about caffeine. It's a ritualistic signal to the brain that the day has structure, and that structure matters enormously when the surrounding environment is chaotic. Stock several varieties of tea alongside coffee. Chamomile, for example, has documented mild calming properties, which becomes invaluable when anxiety levels are high within your household. Green tea offers a gentler stimulant effect for individuals who struggle with full-strength coffee under stress. Store both in sealed, airtight containers, away from light and moisture, and rotate them annually, even though neither technically expires quickly. The budget math here is straightforward. A 200-count box of quality instant coffee packets costs under $15 and occupies less space than 2 paperback books. The return on that investment during a 2-week grid-down event is difficult to overstate. Items 3 and 4 are hard candy and chocolate. The University of Georgia Cooperative Extension Service, a primary reference for emergency food storage, specifically lists hard candy and chocolate bars as 1-year shelf-stable comfort items. North Carolina State Extension uses identical language in their disaster kit guidance. These are not fringe prepper opinions, they are documented recommendations from land-grant university food science programs. Hard candy serves 2 crucial purposes: the immediate psychological lift of something sweet and familiar, and a quick glucose source when appetite is suppressed by stress. Chocolate bars provide both significant morale value and meaningful calories. A single 100-gram bar of dark chocolate delivers roughly 500 calories, which is highly relevant when your rationing and energy demands are elevated. The common mistake most preppers make here is feeling guilty about stocking treats. Discard that thinking. Having comfort foods in your stockpile can make a world of difference in maintaining morale. Established food storage resources like ReadyWise treat them as standard line items, not indulgences. Stock what your household genuinely likes and will eat. Rationing familiar treats is far more effective than distributing survival bars nobody wants. Items 5 and 6 are spices and bouillon cubes. Eating the same beans and rice every day for 3 weeks will begin to feel like punishment by day 10. This isn't merely a morale complaint, it's a documented contributor to appetite fatigue, which can lead to people undereating and losing physical capability at the worst possible time. Spices weigh almost nothing. A small collection of chili powder, garlic powder, Italian seasoning, and a few bouillon cubes takes up minimal space and can transform a monotonous emergency meal into something genuinely edible. That psychological shift, from eating merely to survive to eating with some degree of satisfaction, is worth far more than its weight suggests. Bouillon cubes store for 2 or more years in a cool, dry location, and they dissolve in hot water to create a warm, salty broth that addresses both hydration and the powerful comfort signal of a hot drink. In cold weather scenarios especially, hot broth as a midday option can measurably elevate group morale. Items 7 and 8 are soap and dental hygiene supplies. Hygiene is where the gap between short-term preppers and long-term thinkers becomes starkly obvious. Most people stock just enough soap and toothpaste to cover the first week. Feeling clean is intrinsically tied to feeling human, especially after a crisis hits. When infrastructure fails, personal hygiene can rapidly decay, leading to plummeting spirits. Military doctrine has understood this for generations. Field manuals across multiple branches emphasize personal hygiene, not merely for health reasons, but for morale maintenance. A soldier who feels clean has a measurably different psychological state than one who does not, even in identical physical circumstances. Stock 4 to 6 months of soap per person. This might sound excessive until day 30 of a grid-down event, when the last bar is gone and showers haven't been possible for weeks. Solid bar soap stores indefinitely when kept dry. Antibacterial varieties add a layer of infection control that is critical when medical access is limited. Dental hygiene carries its own significant weight. A toothache or gum infection during a crisis is not a minor inconvenience, it severely degrades sleep, concentration, and mood, and professional dental care may be entirely unavailable. Stock toothbrushes, toothpaste, and floss generously. The investment is measured in cents per day compared to the potentially debilitating cost of dental deterioration. Items 9 and 10 are a deck of cards and physical books. A deck of cards is cheap, small, and can provide hours of distraction, an instant morale booster, and a simple way to pass the time when you are just waiting it out. As many survival resources note when addressing downtime management, boredom is not a trivial problem in an extended crisis. Idle hours with no structured activity breed anxiety, rumination, and conflict within groups. A single standard deck of cards can support dozens of games for any group size, requires no electricity, weighs nothing, and lasts for years in a dry environment. Physical books are the underrated companion to the card deck. A paperback novel weighs under 450 grams and provides 8 to 12 hours of mental engagement per volume. Stock what your household genuinely reads. Non-fiction survival reference books also belong in this category, serving the dual purpose of offering genuine information and providing something constructive to do when stress is climbing. Avoid over-relying on digital entertainment in your planning. Tablets and phones run out of battery, and battery resources during a crisis are finite. Physical media has no power requirement, which is a genuine operational advantage, not just a nostalgic preference. Quality wool socks appear consistently across multiple serious survival resource lists, including Jackery's Preparedness Guide. The reason is simple and grounded in physiology: cold, wet feet generate disproportionate misery and accelerate physical fatigue. Warm, dry feet have the opposite effect. Merino wool socks manage moisture better than cotton and retain their insulating properties even when damp. They cost more per pair than synthetic alternatives, but the return in morale and physical comfort is significant over extended wear. Stock at least 3 or 4 pairs per person and rotate them deliberately. The hot water bottle belongs right alongside them. Filling a standard rubber hot water bottle with heated water and placing it at the foot of a sleeping bag costs no extra fuel beyond what you are already using to heat water for drinking or cooking. The improvement to sleep quality is substantial. Sleep deprivation is a direct threat to cognitive function, decision-making, and emotional regulation, 3 things you cannot afford to compromise during a crisis. A $2 hot water bottle is one of the highest return items on this entire list. Items 13 and 14 are a journal and candles. Journaling during a prolonged crisis serves 2 functions most people don't consider until they desperately need them. The first is psychological. The act of writing down what happened today, what decisions were made, and the group's status creates a structure that combats the formless anxiety of open-ended uncertainty. FEMA's crisis counseling program specifically encourages coping strategies that promote structure and meaning-making during disaster recovery, and journaling is one of the most portable and cost-free ways to achieve this. The second function is operational. A written record of resource consumption, water source quality, group health status, and security observations has genuine tactical value during an extended situation. The journal that helps keep someone sane also becomes an invaluable operational log. Candles address a need that flashlights and tactical lighting do not, ambient light that signals safety and normalcy. A lit candle during the evening hours, when stress typically peaks, changes the psychological register of a space in a way that LED task lighting simply cannot. Stock unscented pillar candles for their long burn time, and if space allows, add a few scented varieties. Familiar scents like pine, vanilla, and cedar activate memory associations that stabilize emotional states. Store candles in sealed bags in a cool location and never leave them unattended. Always keep a fire extinguisher accessible. Item 15 encompasses tailored items for children, the elderly, and pets. While the previous 14 items apply to most adults with minor adjustments, this 15th category is not optional if your group includes children, elderly family members, or animals. It requires its own dedicated planning. For children, familiar comfort items from home carry far more psychological weight than any adult morale item. A beloved stuffed animal, a familiar book, a small puzzle, or a favorite snack translates directly to reduced anxiety and improved sleep. FEMA and the American Red Cross document that children's disaster responses are heavily shaped by how the adults around them behave and by whether familiar objects and routines can be maintained. The National Child Traumatic Stress Network emphasizes that maintaining familiar objects and routines is crucial for preventing post-traumatic stress disorder in children during disasters. Pack deliberately for children and, where age-appropriate, let them participate in the process. For elderly family members, prescription medication rotation planning is a medical necessity that intersects directly with morale. The anxiety produced by running low on critical medication during a crisis is severe and entirely preventable with proper planning. Consult a pharmacist about legally stockpiling a rotation supply where possible, and maintain a list of medications, dosages, and prescribing physicians in your emergency binder. Pets are often overlooked in formal preparedness literature, yet they function as documented morale anchors for their owners. The Red Cross and the American Psychological Association recognize companion animals as contributors to psychological stability. Stock a minimum of 2 weeks of pet food and include familiar treats. A calm, fed animal has a stabilizing effect on the household, whereas a stressed, hungry one creates additional problems you do not need. Consider the barter angle, comfort as currency. Historical collapse scenarios, from post-World War II Europe to Venezuela's economic crisis and Argentina's hyperinflation in the 2010s, consistently produced the same currency pattern. Items like cigarettes, coffee, alcohol, chocolate, and hygiene products became hard trade goods within weeks of normal supply chains breaking down. Most of the items on this list carry significant barter value that compounds their personal utility. A stockpile of instant coffee, hard candy, quality soap, and sealed spices represents both personal morale insurance and trade capacity for items you may need and did not anticipate. This dual-purpose calculus is precisely why experienced long-term preppers stock comfort items in quantities that extend beyond personal consumption. The practical guideline is straightforward: stock enough for your household's use over your target scenario length, then add 20 to 30% more of the highest value trade items, such as coffee, hard candy, and premium soap. If applicable to your group, include cigarettes. Store these trade items separately in sealed containers with dates marked. Do not ration from your trade stock until you have a clear understanding of how long the situation is likely to last. The physical stockpile is undeniably the foundation. Nobody disputes that water, calories, medical supplies, and security are paramount. However, a household that maintains physical survival while losing psychological coherence is not truly prepared, it is merely delayed. Your mindset is as important as your physical stockpile. Preparing for psychological well-being helps you endure crises, maintain your identity, and avoid helplessness. The items that support this crucial goal often cost less and take up less space than almost anything else in your kit. Tonight, take a moment to assess your current preparations. Count your morale items. If fewer than 5 categories from this list are represented, that gap will not announce itself until day 20 of a real situation, by which point fixing it will no longer be possible. Make a commitment to add one item this week, then another. The stockpile that keeps your household sane is ultimately the one that actually gets used.